live. I'm like looking at it. I can never figure out when it's ready. So
It says it's live, so we can start.
yeah, you guys just tell me when you see it going.
All right. Hey guys, it's Through the Fingers podcast today. We're here with the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Linn. Paul, first off, thanks for coming on, man. We always
Thanks for
have
having me.
oh, anytime,
Really
man.
appreciate it.
So, Paul, the way I like to start these off is I ask everyone the same thing. If if someone didn't know you at all and you were introducing yourself or you were telling a little bit about yourself, what would you say?
Like introduce myself like as background.
Like, yeah, give us a little background, what you do, what you did, what you want to do,
Yeah,
things like
I
that.
mean, if I was introducing myself, it surely wouldn't be as an arm wrestler. Uh,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
um, locally, I'm more associated with football due to playing and coaching career, and just being around that game for so long. But yeah, I mean, I have a full time job. I'm now a part time arm wrestler. I got a son that had a baseball game tonight. Like I'm just a regular dude who dabbles in arm wrestling. That's it.
Nice.
But you're really damn good at it, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying, man. I wouldn't call myself good. I'm working towards it though.
Well, I
Perfect.
got your signature on the wall behind me, see?
Oh, yeah.
So you're pretty
Oh, you got the
famous.
posters. You got the
I got the
posters.
posters, the cards. I bought from every East versus West. I got something.
And
I
I tell you
support
what,
100%.
I
100%.
mail those. I mail a lot of those out. Those are coming from my house.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you probably sent it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've definitely seen your name on the hundreds that I send out,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've been well, I love East versus West, obviously. I mean, that's why we're really proud to run the qualifier here.
Yeah.
And it was a success. It was a really good time. And
Yeah, we're really glad that you guys stepped up. I mean, I know Angan personally has an investment in making sure that Canada is represented well, with opportunities.
yeah.
Not just, Canada's a huge part of North American arm wrestling for sure,
Oh
and
yeah.
the more opportunities we can get out for the Canadian pullers, the better, And
Yeah,
to be
we
honest, I mean,
appreciate it.
some of the best North Americans are coming out of Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a lot of good up and comers, so I mean it's
It's
starting to
just
really
getting bigger
grow.
and bigger, like
Yeah.
everywhere, right? Like even the States has some killers down there. It's awesome to see. It's really exciting.
Yeah, what I love the most is seeing like the new pullers, the novice first timers and kids and amateurs.
Yeah, I love
Those
that.
classes are really growing down here. And those, everybody got to get their foot in the door. I feel like I was an amateur yesterday, like I'm still working my way out of it. But that's when arm wrestling's fun too, to be honest.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
one.
its most fun in the first 2 years. We were going everywhere, doing everything, pulling everybody and meeting everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, for sure.
That's my love. That's why I love it so much. It's
So, Paul, you're a big football guy, hey?
Yeah. First love.
You went to Bloomsburg University as a middle linebacker, didn't you?
Yep. Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference School, Division II. I'm not the tallest guy in the world. Didn't have the greatest 40 time. Um, had an opportunity to go to Marshall University before accepting the Bloom offer. Just
Okay.
going through the process and figuring things out. In hindsight, I wouldn't have done a single thing different.
Yeah.
The Division II route and the PSAC was a
very
great
good.
experience for me. Allowed me the opportunity to play afterwards. So I couldn't be more blessed in that aspect.
No, that's awesome to hear. And I like hearing about the different backgrounds. Like now that we've been doing this podcast long enough, we're talking to enough people. We have everyone we talk to is an arm wrestler in the sense, but they all come from a different background. And
Right.
so you have a really big coaching background as well, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And it's, I love that aspect of the sport too. It's people from all walks of life. I think a lot of times people associate the sport with like blue collar, and I think for the most part, that's a fair assessment. And I think a lot of guys coming from blue collar jobs and lives bring, got guys coming in with monstrous hands that, they're just strong. Like, and this is such a great sport that facilitates the ability for somebody who might not be traditionally strength trained to excel in a sport. And then you also have you got your white collar guys, and you got people with sports backgrounds and people who don't have it. And I think part of the big thing with the expansion is we're now starting to attract, people, athletes, are getting interested in the sport early, rather than like being in a scenario with like me where I found it after the playing days were over. And I think that's one of the important things when it comes to like East versus West and us catching up. We got to get people finding a sport who are already, athletes, young athletes who say, you know what, I think I'm going to add this arm wrestling thing to one of my paths. I think that's the route for us to catch up with Eastern Europe.
Did you see that thing with Chael Sonnen the other day?
Yeah, awesome.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah, man.
What's funny? What's funny is like I get a lot of messages and stuff, and I talk to people, and there's a guy, Eric McAtee, messages me all the time, like just follows everything, and he follows MMA and everything, and he he converses back and forth with Chael too. So basically, that video, like almost everything that he said verbatim, Eric explained to me prior to the video, and I was like, I messaged him right away. I said, "Did you tell him to make that video?" He was like, "No."
Well, he didn't word it for him.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he said? The Turkish guy. I'm like,
yeah,
it's not going against the Turkish guy. Come on.
Yeah. No, I don't think. I think a lot of these guys who are getting involved are very many of them are getting involved because of Devin's charisma. He's such a he's like a magnetic personality, and these guys who've competed at that level, I think, identify with people like that. We had a guy reached out to me. He had a strange like YouTube name or Instagram name, like said Max Bear or something. And he introduced himself, and he's a local, like pseudo local to me. And he introduced himself. He played in the NFL for like 8 years, and was like, he was a defensive end for Miami and a couple different teams. A really good player out of Penn State, and Jared Odrick. And he messaged me like right before we were going to East versus West, and was like, "Hey, I'm a huge Devin fan. How do I get to see this match?" And I'm like, "Bro, you just go." And he was like,
went. I remember,
yeah. He was like, "All right, cool, I'll be there." And he was there. He handed out some
that's so awesome.
And I was like, "Wow, it's really coming full circle."
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, that's a real fan too. Obviously, it spiked his interest, right?
Right. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people who are in various athletics identify with the great champions of things and the mind state that it takes to be that. And Devin just exemplifies that in such a like original way that I think a lot of these guys who are competitors, that you don't see guys like Devin who approach things the way he does that often.
And he's a unique athlete across the board, right? Like if you put him in any sport, he's a unique athlete. Like it's not just that he's a unique arm wrestler. We're blessed to have him in the scene for that sense, but really he's unique wherever you put him. And I think, like you said, that brings a lot of outside people in more than most, just because it's something that's different from anything else. Like you can't find a guy like this no matter where you look, right?
No,
he's just him.
Yeah, some of it's the persona, but I think a lot of it is the way in which he wins at arm wrestling too. Like it's easy to look at it and be like, it's a strength sport. Like if it were as simple as that, guys that look like Levon would never lose, which granted Levon doesn't lose much, but you see a guy that is like the polar opposite genetic makeup to Levon, who is somehow finding a way, with being considered slow and a slow starter and not fast twitch and all these things that we associate with athleticism. He finds a way to pick his opponents apart and win consistently at an incredible level. And then you pair that up with the just the general character that Devin is, and the fact that it's not a character that was made up. That's just who the dude is,
I think that's what resonates in arm wrestling, though. I think too many guys try to have a character. Like you're a pretty humble guy. And I'm a big fan of you. I've been watching you because I'm older and I got into arm wrestling old. And I know that you didn't get in until you're a little older, right? So you know, and I'm a huge fan, but you're not a crazy character. You're humble as, you know, as humble as they come, right? So I think it's important that guys are themselves, kind of, you know what I mean? And don't be afraid to be themselves too. So
It's interesting, like in competition in general, like how you know, what molds you as a competitor, what sport you play, different things, you know, and then like generationally too. Like we're in such a look at me like culture now, like bring attention to myself, be as flashy as I can, be as loud as I can. But kind of in it, I was never really brought up that way. Like, let's go about this thing. Like, act like you've been there before. When you win, you know, hand the ball to the, you know, you score a touchdown, you hand the ball to the referee,
yeah.
like the greats would do. And now we've gotten into this like this self glorification thing and the opportunity with social media to present ourselves in pretty much any fashion.
And that's good
Um,
too.
yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
good both ways. I like
yeah,
the characters too. I just like people being themselves. That's all. If you're a character and you're just a character naturally, good, man. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's hard to fake it anyway, right?
Right, for sure. And eventually somebody's going to see through it. I
That's
mean,
right. Yeah.
and I like I love the arm wrestling with the fresh start at an older age because it allowed me to learn from some of the mistakes I made in competition prior, you know, like maybe being too high strung or being, you know, too aggressive per se or whatever. Now it's a fresh start. And like I've always just seen it as a gentleman's sport. Like you're gonna shake hands after the match. You know, you should by all means, otherwise you shouldn't be competing. So why act any different prior? But it doesn't mean that you
Yeah.
can't be an absolute savage for about 20 minutes.
Well, it's that arm wrestling community love though that gets us hooked anyway. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah, we're savages on the table, but it doesn't matter if I'm from Montana, Calgary, wherever I go, I get treated with much respect and love always. So like
Yeah.
that's what brought me into arm wrestling is I just loved the community. I just loved the way that everyone respects each other, you know, no
Yeah.
matter how much you fight on the table, right? So
It's a
yeah,
beautiful thing, and that you can kind of go pretty much anywhere on the continent, maybe anywhere in the world with
yeah,
reason,
yeah,
and put a Facebook post out there and say, "Hey, you know, I'm in town.
yeah,
I'm looking for an arm wrestling like practice. What do
yeah,
you guys got?" And it's like, you know, I have people reach out to me when they're local, and we're like, "Yeah, well, you're more than welcome." You know what I mean? And it's like everywhere you go, somebody rolls out the red carpet,
yeah,
and it's really it doesn't really matter about your level either. You
no,
know, like it's not like it has to be somebody who's notable.
no.
Like everybody's welcome anywhere, especially at practices. It's a very unique community. It's not a perfect community. There's negatives to everything, but like it's very unique and it's very open on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think another thing that makes arm wrestling unique, since we're kind of on the topic, is like I'll use basketball because I can think of the best references. But if you're playing basketball, you can't show up to a basketball game and get to shoot hoops with Michael Jordan after the game.
Yeah,
You know what
That's
I
true.
mean?
Yeah.
You don't get to talk to the team and say, "Hey guys, how you doing?" Things like that. Whereas in arm wrestling, this community is so personable that you can literally after the match, you can go up and be like, "Oh, it's like if you're there and like Devin's there or something, or like
yeah,
whoever you want to see, you can go talk to him."
yeah.
Like I've been to East versus West 10 and King of the Table 10 now. I went with Matt Mask.
Mm-hmm.
And literally anybody I talk to is awesome. Any athletes, whatnot. It's just great all around to kind of see. And when you're in the hotel in Turkey and you just go down in the lobby, it's like, oh, there's Levon. Oh, there's Dennis. Oh, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's just like
yeah,
super cool to see. And it's just different, right? So,
yeah. It's awesome, man, and that's the most fun that you have in the sport. Like competition can be fun for a short period of time, but definitely the lead up to it, the preparation and all the stuff that goes in and all the dog and pony show stuff. That stuff ain't fun. But after the event's over, you know, having the after table or going to the bar afterwards, that's where the fun starts. You know.
yeah.
Oh,
For sure. Yeah,
Well, and
you
I,
have to
with
pull a lot, I think. Oh, sorry, Dakota.
No,
Yeah.
that's good. I was gonna say with your like coaching background too, you probably appreciate the build up more than maybe most because I feel like you can kind of relate to it in a sense. And like I feel like you have a lot more science behind things than people see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, what's so interesting, like in comparing to like football, obviously, you got 11 men on the field on either side, on either team, 11 different positions, different players. when it comes down to breaking down an opponent, and like in football, it's so much more like, but you become used to that process because that's what you do. It's what I've done for 12 to 16 weeks a year since I was a child. So like the level of time that goes into that, sometimes it's frustrating for me because I run out of data and I'm trying to overanalyze and I don't have nothing to analyze. But when it comes to the preparation and stuff, yeah, football, major help from everything to physical preparation, to mental preparation, to opponent prep, game plan, all that stuff. I've just always, it was easy to apply because I think you're going from like a bigger perspective to a smaller one. And then you were cutting out the variables, which are the other players.
Yeah.
So it's just you do it and it's up to you. And if I'm comfortable with my camp, meaning how I prepared in all aspects, how I did the weight cut and where I'm at physically, I'm totally at peace with the outcome before the match even happens. And that to me is a security blanket. And I also with the weight cutting and all that stuff, I've grown to like that process. Like people are like, why don't you go up in weight? I'm like, well, I'm barely 6 foot. I don't want to be my body don't want to be 235 pounds. And it wants to be 215, 220 and cut to 209. And people are like, well, you cut that many times, isn't that bad for you? I'm like, it's part of the process. And it's part of if somebody's paying you money to come and represent their organization, their league, in my book, you're not just competing for 20 minutes. You're part of being a professional is being able to do all that stuff and be reliable to do it. Not to mention the mental stress and the physical stress that you put on yourself is like a purification. You make you a little stronger, So like when I make my weight cut and I rebound back and everything else, I feel like I already won once already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that answers one of my questions because I was going to talk to you about that. I wanted to know how long do you think you can do this weight cut stuff? Because I mean, you're not that young anymore, right? So yeah, no, that's awesome. I think it's awesome. But I've always seen you cut and it looks like death when you do it, right? So
no, I there's part of me that's masochistic enough to not to kind of like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It gives you purpose.
I want to find that sweet spot where it makes the most sense. But then I also, there's part of me that wants the challenge of making the cut even more drastic. But it's about staying in that sweet spot, and then replenishing correctly. But I mean, your metabolism slows down. That's life, people ask me weight cut and nutrition questions all the time. And quite often get asked how many calories do I eat a day? I said, you'd be surprised how few I eat. And they're like, well, how do you stay strong? I said, well, the body is meant, if you're giving it the right macros and stuff, it doesn't need that much,
and stores them properly. Yeah.
And I've also found too, one of the biggest things that I learned throughout this journey is that sometimes being gym strong doesn't matter as much as being healthy does. And I've had to work myself out of the meathead mentality of just go in here and move these weights. I started that way, like a meathead. And then midway through, I'm now I got legitimate injuries, that I didn't think were a thing. And then say, okay, now let me just dial this back a little. Let me cut the volume back a little bit and cut the intensity back and everything. You can't go balls to the wall on every single set of everything you do. You have to have some focus. So that's been a fun journey to figure that out and learn, from some of these guys that have polar opposite perspective. John Brzezinski is the one that jumps into mind right away. Like John said, why do you go to the gym so much? Why don't you just prepare for some of these matches without going to the gym at all? And I was like, John, I can't do that. I would lose my mind,
Oh, that would be up here too, right?
Yeah,
doing that for so long that you would think there's no way I'm prepared right now.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like you put in the work.
I get that with deloading. I'm always oh, I'm going to be too weak. I haven't worked out in 10 days. It's crazy. It's
you start feeling like everything's not connected and you get to your
but that was when you're stronger. Yeah.
But you got to figure out with your body what is your correct rest period too.
Yeah, we're all different.
Load to get ready to compete because I'd have a tournament on Saturday and I'd lift on Friday. I just went light, and it didn't affect me. And early on, you develop those bad habits because of lack of competition, depending on where you're going. I won, so it must be the right way to do it, Hold on one second. My dog.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
no worries.
Get out of here. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to see what he thinks about like Devon's training then, because obviously he's very like.
I don't think we see. I think we see like 2%.
Yeah. Oh, Paul, I want to ask you. I'll kind of play two hand-to-hand questions. It's just,
Sure.
how do you feel about like the training that Devin shows people then? Like, because I know you have your prep and everything, but the way like, do you? I don't think he shows everything. First off, like,
No.
um, but at the same time, like, do you think that those lifts he does are super, super beneficial, or do you think they're more sometimes he's just putting on a show, or
So I think when like I've talked to Devin a good bit about like, his training has adapted. I mean, if you follow Devin for any number of years, you know that he's a work in progress too,
yeah,
But like, so a lot of times he comes out, whatever he's posting becomes a fad that everyone tries to do that and then post PRs on and everything. And I think people following those footsteps, that's just not the right thing to do. Number one, you can mess around and get yourself hurt. And number two, I think the biggest thing that I learned is number one, like if we're looking at like, okay, like how am I going to develop myself as an arm wrestler? I don't think pointing at any one athlete and say I'm going to do it that way is ever the right way to do it. We're not. Very few people are John Brzenk, and probably almost no one is like Devin. So like, I think there's value in the list for sure, and I think like when you talk about the pronation list, like Devin uses that as a barometer. Like he's saying, okay, my pronation is maybe my most important component in this match. This is what I did prior. This is my goal to know that I am in a better form. And then that can also be mental for Devin too. Like I know that I'm 5-10% stronger. And that can be a security blanket to say, okay, I'm ready to roll now. And I think we all have those. I mean, for me, a lot of times, it'll be general strength lifts. If I know, like, hey, I can bench 315 this many times, we still want to know we're coming in good form.
yeah,
So I think there's value in it in that aspect. But like for the general arm wrestler to say, all right, I'm going to do this pronation lift and then expect to go out and now have, insanely different results is just not feasible.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing I like to tell people too when they talk like new guys when they're watching Devin's current videos on training is like you're just starting. This guy is not just starting, and you need to understand that because, like you said, if you go back far enough, Devin has tried almost everything under the sun in an arm wrestling related sense, but he's able to try those things because of the frame that he has put behind himself from all of the training throughout. So he's capable of doing these things whereas you're not. Like you need to understand that you don't have that built up and you need to clear your own path and do your own things like he does. The only difference is Devin documented the whole way. All of these guys have done this. It's just Devin's is documented so people can see it, right? So that's a big thing that I think people forget.
Well, I think it's a combination. Like I've only been arm wrestling 2 years, but I've already started with the conjugate method. I've done many other things, and now I get trained by Sanders Shedis. So he's my coach now. But I've tried so many different things, and eventually, what I'd like to do, because I'm seeing what works from each of these things, I'm going to make my own regimen eventually. Like I've only been doing it 2 years, but I think it's good to actually don't put limitations in the beginning. Just find out what works for you. And I've noticed, like now, it's only been 2 years. Like they say, my gains, I should see them after 3, but I think I've leveled up like 2 levels in the last 6 months. So I think you got to just keep grinding and just find what works for you because everyone's different.
I agree with that. I think you just have to watch the amount of stress you're putting on everything while you find ways out. I think that's the big factor for people.
Oh yeah, the
If you
injuries.
find something new, you go light. Like it's not worth it. Like it's not worth trying something and possibly getting injured and sending yourself back however long, right? So that's just the big thing. But to kind of stray into my second question, how do you feel about the way Auden is going about this getting as big as possible, eating as much food as possible? Like I know he probably kind of because I've heard people give me both opinions. Like people are like, he's just kind of doing what Devin did against Michael Todd, and then he might cut down, or like, you know what I mean? It's kind of tricky.
Look, when you're young and you're a mesomorph or necromorph, you're going to have a hard time gaining weight. I mean, a majority of what I'm doing in the off season with my kids, like coaching wise and running a strength program, is micromanaging the ever loving shit out of how many calories they're eating and making them weigh in on an every 3-day basis. Because the idea is you got a bunch of, potentially average kids that you want to make good or great. What the easiest thing that you can affect is your body mass, which will have a direct effect on your overall strength output. So like that has to be squared away. So like I know how hard it is for somebody his age because I was that guy. Like gaining weight was a full-time job. So I think there's value in it for sure. Like you get ready for a match and there's no weight cap or you're below the weight cap. Of course, you want to get to that, I think, for sure. And it can't hurt. And Alden's he's an ectomorph. It'll come right off. If he can get it on, it'll come up. You go back to normal eating, it'll come off before you know it. So I don't think it's a terrible approach in any way.
I think I think he's just trying to cut the time getting there. That's all.
Yeah, and you know what? Dude, it's getting a kid. I mean, getting a kid to gain weight who has a hard time gaining weight is insane. How much they have to eat.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
So yeah, you got to if you want to do it fast. We're talking about 5, 6, 7,000 calories a day.
In Dubai, man, he didn't stop eating because that's when he pulled the whisper, right? Every time I saw that guy, I was like, oh man, he just had something he was snacking on. I'm like, hey, you gotta respect the grind, right? Like he knows what he wants. So
that's easy. Look, man, it's easy to lose weight. It's easy. I mean, like I say that like half jokingly, but like when you are a hard gainer, it is easier to lose weight than it is to gain it for sure. And even in that, like if you take like somebody who might be wanting to, an older person wanting to lose weight with a slower metabolism, in my opinion, that is easier to lose weight even at an older age than a young person with a fast metabolism. It's more, and it's mentally taxing too. And you're eating it, feeling sick, and you've got an alarm set at 2 a.m. to get up and eat a peanut butter and jelly. Like that's how you know you're about it,
I remember those days you can just eat as much as you wanted and it didn't ever matter. Like I'd eat morning till night and I'd still be eating like no body fat. Yeah. One day it just changed for me. So
yeah, like 36. I was like,
yeah, that's what it was. It was around then. Yeah.
Are you gonna be at the Challenger Series in Florida, or like the one Chance is doing with all the it's an association with East versus West?
Most likely. Yeah. I haven't my calendar gets so nutty. I plan to be if life allows. We'll be down there for the East versus West qualifier finals, which will be that's coming
2 weeks,
up here,
isn't it? Yeah. 2 weeks from now, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Crazy, yeah. Time flies.
2.5. Yeah. Crazy.
Are you gonna be at East versus West 14? Have you heard anything or that's the one in Orlando?
Oh yeah. I'll be on it.
Yeah,
I'll be on that one. I don't have an opponent yet, but I'll be on now.
Yeah. Yeah. I know a lot of guys from around here, like good guys, are gonna be on it. So and Angan said he's gonna have a tournament the day or two before. So I'll definitely come down and I'll be pulling at that for sure. So
yes, we talked about that. I mean, and I've explained to Angan, we talk quite a bit about these things, and like the presence of new arm wrestlers in the United States is very strong. Like amateur, semi-pro, whatever you want to call anything that's newer. And most of our dedicated fan base of like people who actually buy pay-per-views religiously it's not fans, it's actual competitors. So like having I know it's going to be a monumental level of effort work that's going to go into putting a tournament together and then also having the first East versus West card in the United States. The stress level is high. But like if I'm new and I let's say I didn't get to the qualifiers or like I wasn't at the pro level and I want to compete, and I say, oh well, now there's an East versus West card and they're having a tournament, I'm definitely going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, it's almost like, yeah, it might be a little bit of work, but this is, I think, a lot of the people that would want to see that event live anyway. That's almost giving them an opportunity and doing that's what we need to be doing with the brand. I think it's allowing for everybody to develop.
Well, I was on the fence about coming, for example, because just financially and everything. And then as soon as I saw that there was a tournament, I was like, I'm in, count me in.
Yeah.
Because it's just something, like you said, too, for a lot of the people who do buy the pay-per-view stuff also compete. And it's just another thing that get them, okay, well, I'll go compete. I'll make a trip out of it. I have an excuse for why I'm going now. And then I get to watch the best guys pull 2 days later, right? So
Exactly.
awesome. Yeah.
Though
Exactly.
the people that aren't competing now are buying it now, though. I think the numbers for this one are expected to be like by far. Oh yeah, by far. So like, yeah,
But
there's
also,
definitely fans. There's fans out there for sure.
There 100% is. But the big thing we talk about, and I think a lot of competitors like who might be at East versus West, I don't know if everybody understands or is really seeing clearly the fact that there are arm wrestling fans, there are arm wrestlers, and then there are Devin fans.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's true. That's true.
I get it.
They're buying.
You hit it. Yeah,
It's the Conor McGregor effect. Like, it is what it is. But we as pullers have to be realistic with ourselves and understand that, like, there probably ain't many people outside of my close circle that are buying that card to see me, you know. And I think that there's a lot of guys that are like, oh wow, blah blah. The numbers speak for themselves. When Devin, Juan, certain people are on those cards, that's when the numbers go way up. And I think, like, what Angen's doing with what he's paying the other pullers is very generous in consideration to what those
they
of
bring
us
to the table.
are.
The demand is, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. That's why I think there's got to be more emphasis on us to promote ourselves too. I mean, really, there. I mean, that's why I understand characters and everything else, but I think as long as you're promoting yourself and you're getting it out there, then you're contributing too, right? Because that's our job too, is to try to promote ourselves and build this, right? So, and the more we do it, the more because it's like a pyramid, right? Like, I bring in a guy arm wrestling, he sucks, but he promotes himself, but he's got 20 people that watch him. You know what I'm saying, right? So it's like a pyramid scheme. Like, we can set it up the same way if we're all out there and we're all promoting it. And you know what I mean?
Pyramid scheme.
Well, I know. Hey, listen, I'm the money man. I'm always thinking about making money, but I'm just saying you can incorporate it into arm wrestling though. Like the same.
No, but I mean, like rather than looking at it as a pyramid scheme, really it's word of mouth, right?
Well, yeah.
So
Yeah,
the introduction of an introduction of an introduction, and it's the same thing in like a lot of like small businesses. So your local, your word of mouth is more important than anything you're putting out there on social media or marketing.
Yeah.
When somebody says, "Hey, take a look at this," or "Come over to my house and look at this pay-per-view, you might like it," that's I think that's how we're growing most. And then obviously we do have some people that are viral and characters that are doing an amazing job.
Well, Devin's almost at 1 million subscribers.
Yeah, it's
It's like
insane.
970,000.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
and now we got Brian Shaw coming in, apparently.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, you imagine? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
he's been flirting with that for a while.
For a long time.
Yeah, he was looking at boxing, but now that didn't, or MMA, but it didn't pan out. So from what I heard, he's coming back to arm wrestling.
Well, Brian's in he's in like the grip strength community too. So like my buddy Lucas Raymond, who owns Arm Assassin Strength Shop, he's known Brian for quite some time. Made equipment for him and different things. And Brian had been introduced to arm wrestling quite some time ago. But like, it's like how can you, like, part of me is like, if somebody of his status who's still competing in his sport was to say, "Hey, should I get into arm wrestling?" I don't think I could say yes in good conscience. Like, you could destroy yourself real quick for what you're doing,
especially with his strength. Yeah,
and he'd be going from the top to not so top.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but it wouldn't take long,
But
I bet you 2 years he'd be in the top, top 50 in the world.
Back to what Paul was saying. Sorry, Brian.
Sorry.
Back to what Paul was saying. He'd want to be at the top because he's used to.
He would want to be,
and he would challenge himself because he's that kind of person. Anybody who's got that mentality like that is that kind of person where they want to be the best. And like Paul said, that's where the injuries come in, is when you start really setting the bar higher than what you're used to, and something you haven't done too much, right?
For sure. And like, obviously like strongman, the strength background is great. Like I'm sure he has great tendon density and all these different things, but like just the latent soreness and the stopping you from training other things, like it's a tricky thing. Like if you have your energy, your emotional energy split into different places, you're only going to progress so fast. I think we kind of saw that with Larry Wheels. We got Larry Wheels jumps in the sport. Everybody says, he's a bum and he's terrible, blah, blah, blah. And everyone wants to hate him. But the reality is Larry's a genetic freak. He's also got a tremendous work ethic. And as he got more involved in arm wrestling, and when his focus can be more on arm wrestling, like I think it took Larry a little bit longer because he's still doing bodybuilding and doing a bunch of other stuff. Like, if you can't focus that emotional energy, you'll progress only at the rate that you're allowing. But inevitably, after however many years, now we're seeing Larry, and Larry is underrated. Larry is underrated. Larry is a beast, and people don't want to give him credit. And I think a lot of that has to do with like the matches that he took early on were not favorable matches. And I don't know if he did it I don't know if it was his choice or what. I don't think it was a Ryan Bowen move where he's punching above his weight on purpose with a strategy. Yeah. I think it's just kind of how it panned out. But I think Larry, I think a lot of people are gonna grab Larry and be like, okay.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I give him credit for actually the way he approached. I give him credit because you know what? Yeah. He could have done it way different. He could have been just pulling guys that are bums under him. He was always pushing himself, always giving himself something to train and work hard towards. So I actually really appreciate, even though he took L's, the heart and the dedication was there. You can see it. So.
Well, buddy, I mean, if we're in the sport of arm wrestling, I think new people don't understand it. You have no chance ever to be undefeated in this thing, period, at all whatsoever.
There's no chance. You miss a go and it's over.
Yeah. You got to go take them losses and learn from them.
Yeah, and define us. Yeah. I've never learned from a win, really.
No, you can't. Because you're just like, I did great. I did everything right.
Everything went the way you wanted to, right?
Yeah. I think that's why our community is so great too, because it's such a humbling sport. Like if you're not able to take it as what it is, you're just not going to be in the sport. Right. And I think the sport itself really sends a lot of people away who maybe don't belong there naturally in that sense. Because a lot of people a lot of people with bad attitude, if they go 0-2 in their first tournament, or they, like you said, they come to practice and they can't even pin some guy who's way smaller than them, they just go, that's not for me. And you know what? I think that's a really nice thing about arm wrestling. Is the people who stick around, you start cheering for them because you've done it yourself, and then you see them doing it too, and you appreciate it, right?
100%.
Everybody pinned me when I started. I couldn't beat anybody.
Dude, that's how it is for everybody. 100%. Like you internally, you're like, wow, you're like, what? But as it goes on, you just realize like every single person goes through the same experience. And you know what? It's these new guys are getting in or looking at all these superstars and whatever. But at the end of the day, they were started just like you too. It's just they never quit, and they are the best at what they do because of all their approaches and whatnot. But everyone has their own path, like we were talking about earlier. But there's more than one way to get there, right? So.
Yeah, well, it would have been the opposite. I would have quit if I pinned everybody in the beginning. I would have been like, this sport sucks.
The sport's designed to test you like that mentally too. Like especially when you first start, depending on how you get involved. If you don't have a buddy who brings you to arm wrestling or whatever, you just find it. Like I just found it. Like I just watched Game Arms and I looked at people on Game Arms and was like, that guy don't look that strong, And like I binge watched the whole damn thing in one night. And I was like, all right. I started looking up arm wrestling tournaments. Show up to the tournament, and I came there fully expecting to win the whole damn thing. Like in my head, I'm like, this is not real. I do not believe that these guys are that strong. And I went in novice class, and then I jump into pro class, and it's like a super heavyweight pro class and 199 and up. And I took third, which was not bad. I beat like a national champion, didn't understand it, whatever. And I left that place feeling like I was the biggest loser on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Like just because of what I had in my own head, my perception of it. And I remember like debating what I wanted to do from there. And it was like a mental process. Like I was sore and I couldn't bench right. And I'm like, I don't know if this is for me, and I'm not happy with how I did, but I had to like have that self-actualization, like, you know what? That was fun. Like let's maybe do a little bit more research and actually train. And like now that you know that there is training for it. And it wasn't, I had to like take a couple weeks to process it, that losing that one-on-one stuff. And then then you get kind of like addicted to it. And when I went to my first practice and I got like, I'm getting tossed around by like Philip Hertz and like Ron Klemba and these different guys. And I like, and realizing, just understanding as they explain, no, this is why I'm able to do this to you. Your fingers are weak, like, and then having that affirmation of like, hey, you can fix this. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that can be done. And like, sometimes it takes, just telling somebody something to flip their switch. Like, hey, look, you're really strong. You're just maybe making a few mistakes here and we can help you. And I think that's like the biggest thing that the community is so good about. Like, for the most part, especially now, I think guys are even more sensitive to the fact that like a new puller is going to come in and they're deer in headlights. And what you say to them and how you treat them could decide whether we grow the sport by one more or not.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Have you pulled Matt Mask before? Have you gripped up with him?
No, I mean, I've been in the same building with Matt probably like a million times, but never other than just grabbing like in the air.
Have
like,
you pulled Brad Grundy? Have you even him practice? Yeah. Okay. I was gonna see what you thought about that if you grip both of them, but you haven't pulled Matt.
Brad is like an anomaly to me, and like I pulled Brad a couple times, like once after a tournament, and once at one of these big practices at Morocco's, maybe twice there. I don't know. But we've ripped up a good bit. We talked technique and stuff. And not to take anything away from Brad, we pulled like later into practice, but you're gauging like stylistically, like the way Brad and I work together. I thought Pablo was gonna beat Brad. And I told Brad that. Like I said, I think Pablo's the favorite. I think you need to stop the match. And when you stop the match, I think then you become the favorite. And like the way in which Brad just executed his game plan is, I mean, I can tell you this: Angan is a believer in Brad.
Oh, and I can tell. Yeah.
But I don't know. I am telling you this: I do not know how to pick a Brad Grundy match. I don't know how to pick it because just the way we mesh and stuff, like his move it's like it's just weird for me to predict how his move matches against other people.
Yeah.
Stylistic. I mean, I beat people that I can't beat. So
exactly.
I get it, right?
Yeah. So I
it's rock, paper, scissors. And it's never like, oh, okay, here's the match. And like the arm wrestling math is the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah,
and people
try to figure it out.
Yeah, when somebody starts explaining the arm wrestling math as to why they're picking somebody, that's usually when you should stop listening. Because if you're just saying he beat him and he beat him, then you probably don't really understand like what's going on too much. There's some validity to it, but like there are guys levels lower than others that can beat them based on that style, the way they match up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's certain styles that
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? It's just, like you said, when someone talks arm wrestling math, it's usually they haven't arm wrestled a ton because they haven't gotten beat by someone who they thought they could beat, or who, I beat him, so I can beat him. You get smoked. You're like, this doesn't add up.
Well, I mean, that was like the first thing that like messed with my head in the sport was like, I lost to this guy or these two guys in this first tournament. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm never going to be able to beat them. They're stronger than me. And that just is what it is. And then you realize later on that, okay, that's not really the case. And then you go out and execute like preparation. And then you beat those guys. And you're like, oh, okay.
Means so much.
Hard,
Yeah. That's why super matches, I like them.
Yeah.
You can plan a strategy.
They tell all.
Yeah, because I mean, I've beaten guys in super matches that I never thought I could win because then when I practice, they kill me. But in the match, I put a game plan together and I beat them. And I was like, wow.
It's a whole different sport. Super match arm wrestling is a whole different sport from tournament arm wrestling. And like, I remember when that was kind of a debate early on. And people asked me, what do I like better? I said, well, I'm probably more suited for tournament arm wrestling. Like genetically, I'm probably more suited. I can usually win fast if I'm going to win, and I can, be efficient. and conserve energy with the way I win, and I usually have enough in the tank adjustment wise to be able to give a guy that I lost to or went B-side to a decent match on the next time we meet. So I probably am more suited to tournament arm wrestling, but like you said, Brian, like super match arm wrestling is like addicting, like the preparation process and like making sure that you have enough different options in your arsenal to sleep well at night.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And honest, this is a little side note, but I had a buddy ask me to ask this. So your nickname's the White Orc, right?
Yeah.
Well, why is that, or what's the story?
Talk to Neil Pickup, man. Talk to
just Neil. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did this, we've been doing the fix for a long time.
Yeah.
And when we were like in the first year of it or whatever, I forget the name of the gentleman. Somebody sent in like a caricature of the four of us, and I looked like an orc, like big, like black head and like pointy ears and stuff, and Ryan Bowen actually said it. Ryan said, "Oh, he looks like an orc," and Neil goes, "That's it." And that was it. So it is what it is. It's not quite as bad as the Ginger Dread Man or the Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I don't know about those ones. No. Yeah. White Orc's not bad, actually. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I'm a big Lord of the Rings dork too.
Me too.
So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fair.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, good.
Wicked.
So, how do you see the Devin? I gotta ask you, like, how do you see the Devin Levon match going? What's your
man? Like, I tell you, like, handicapping the match. If I even talked to Devin like right after the first Levon match. I saw him in Virginia, and he was a couple weeks out and was trimming back up and everything. And I asked him, I said, look, like, what do you think? Is there if there's ever a rematch in this match, is this a doable thing? And at that point, like post match, like he was like, no, this guy's on another planet. You know what I mean? Like and this was candid one-on-one conversation. And he would it would have to be a special scenario, like he's not normal.
Yeah.
But now as I watch Devin's evolution slowly over time, and then you start weighing these other factors in, and I listen to everything on social media. I try to keep up with everything, and I hear people's different cases and stuff like that. And I can, it ain't arm wrestling math, but I can kind of be swayed to the narrative and like the buildup. And the more I dig into the buildup and I hear people talk about Levon, oh, he's 5-10% weaker, and we don't know how his wrist is. And then, I'm hearing Devin saying he's getting MRIs and his joints look like normal joints now. And he's moving different weights and he's beating the people that we've seen him beat. And then I come back to, what happens in that first match. If his bicep doesn't tear, is there a stop? And then I go down a rabbit hole of like, can he get a stop? Because I think if he gets a stop, the match is over from there. I believe that like wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
So I'm like really leaning towards Devin really having a chance, like, and not like in a bullshit sense, but like I'm starting to drink that Kool-Aid. I mean, if I'm the Vegas odds maker, I'm still making Levon the favorite because, he's the champ, like it's hard to make the champ the underdog. Yeah. But I mean, I see it right razor close. And I just think the 7 rounds
favors. And
a lot of it might have to do with how well Devin can work the referees and gas them. I don't know, man. I think Devin can win the match.
I think a lot of us think that. I think a lot of people see it 6-0 or Devin.
I love how this match is like the narrative's the same. Anybody you ask, Devin stops the match. It's over. Levon might just be too strong though and just rip through him.
Well, here's the real thing. Here's the real thing. And like we can say if Devin stops the match. But I think the bigger thing is if Devin holds up structurally.
Yeah.
Because I think if Devin holds up structurally, he will stop the match. So I think a lot of this is going to come down to structural integrity. And like, he had that little partial bicep tear that limited him, and what happens if that doesn't happen? you know. And,
Right.
and here's the thing: this guy, ever since that match, has done everything humanly possible under the sun to correct every issue he's had and prevent any future issues. So, I mean, he's left no rock
Not
unturned.
even human.
No.
He's not even human anymore.
Yeah.
He's
He's referring to me as
hopped up on ketamine and stem cells.
Ketamine, stem cell, everything. Yeah. But he's also been training different. At that time, he was actually just pulling outside. His inside was weak because he wasn't sure. He didn't trust his frame then, right? But now he's got a clean bill of health. He's been ever since Gennady helped him because Gennady gave him an eye opener. Now he's training inside and he's training strong and like he's training everything now. Now you can't say he's just an outside guy. I don't know. I'm a fanboy. I've met Devin. I'm from Canada. But at the same time, though, realistically, I think he has a much better chance. And only Devin would know. Because you know what? He did say that there's no way anyone's beating Levon. He's not human. Everyone watched that. So, if Devin thinks he has a chance, and I mean, even though he talks shit and all this stuff, he's still a pretty, you know what I mean? Like, if he didn't
took the
have a
match.
chance at all, yeah. Like, I don't know. I'm a believer, right? So, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking Devin is going to. I actually predicted. I'm putting money on Devin, but that's just me.
I think it's a shutout stake for Levon on Armbet.
Is it a shutout? No way.
I think it might be.
But the shutouts probably only the 4. I would guess.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah.
Okay.
The first 4, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of like Devin doing everything under the sun, Paul, I know you've had stem cells as well.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of jump into that topic. I know Matt, like we all practice with Matt and he swears by him. And have they helped you significantly in a lot of?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, like there's a lot of stigmas around this stuff, and people think there's a moral issue or whatever. Like I'm a pretty faithful human being. And if these stem cells were coming from a place that was, something that was going to affect my moral integrity, I wouldn't be doing it. Yeah. So I think that's a wives' tale or like a thing of the past. So that was the first thing I had to get over the hump. And then really kind of digging into the idea of why is this not mainstream treatment? Because I mean, we're talking about a healing effect. We're not talking about treatment. We're talking about healing partial tears. We're talking about correcting problems, we're not talking about cortisone shots. We're not talking about masking pain. We're not talking about these things. We're talking about actual alternatives to surgery. And I don't want to go under the knife at all. I've been blessed enough to not have to throughout my sporting career, and I've avoided it at all costs. And because of that, I've trained with a lot of pain and structural problems because of it, and just bit the bullet and sucked it up. And with this opportunity to try different things like PRP, all these different avenues out there that sometimes your health practitioners are not even telling you about. It's almost ridiculous to me. But yeah, with and I've done PRP now 3 times. And first off, speaking on that, for the injuries that I use it on, I'm batting 1,000. And I'm telling you, when people start talking, every person that comes to me and describes inner elbow pain or outer elbow pain, just go get PRP and take 5 weeks off. And if you don't feel better, you can hate me forever, but I bet you won't. So for that specific thing, it's perfect. So the shoulder joint, I went to Hershey Med for the torn labrums, and they were like, well, there's not enough research. We're not going to give you that in your shoulder. So I'm like, well, right there, it's okay, that's because it definitely, there's probably some financial implication or something that it's not approved by insurance. So now you're not going to give it, whatever. So that's when the stem cells came into place. And, they told me I needed surgery on my labrum. That would be the better route. And that was not with an MRI, but it was with an ultrasound and a description. They were like, sounds like you're a candidate for surgery. I said, well, I ain't doing it. I said, give me PRP. They said no. So okay. So now I chase down the stem cells. And I'll be honest with you, I was a skeptic because I'm a skeptic by nature. And I had no notable results for roughly 2 months. And I started calling the BS card, about 6 to 9 weeks afterwards, after I took my time off in the gym. And then I went back to training, and I'm like, man, this hurts more. But it hurts more because I took 5 weeks off on that side, whatever. And when I got into my 3rd month, That's when everything changed. And I say so everybody's different, but I mean, I'm able to sleep now. Like I didn't used to be able to get through a night without being woken up with shoulder pain, you
Yeah.
know? So like, am I 100%? No, but am I notably improved? Absolutely. And is there much less pain during and after arm wrestling? Absolutely. My goal is to continue to rehab my shoulders and get my range of motion back. But I'm doing things like range of motion stuff in the gym that I was never able to do for the past 7 years.
Wow.
Well,
And
I mean,
do you think, because I know Devin's getting a lot more than like you or anyone really in general, do you think the amount that he's getting would play a significant role as well? Like,
Well, so I had this guy get these messages and stuff, and one of the guys in one of my group chats like was talking about comparing comparing stem cells or PRP or something like that to like performance enhancers, and I'm like, no, apples and oranges. Like but they're like the argument is, if you are now able to train to a higher capacity due to lack of pain or actual structural injuries, how is that not performance enhancing? But I'm saying the difference in my mind is you're just getting yourself back to your genetic norm, like your norm, your mean, like where you would be if you were not injured. So like, and in my mind, it's like, okay, well, if this is something is doing for me what surgery would for a partial labrum tear, then that surgery is every bit as performance enhancing as the stem cells. So I don't think that the stem cells do not make you stronger at all. Like, does it help your soft tissue connections be more anchored and maybe allow you to train harder and heavier without pain? Absolutely. But like when you look at Devin and the years of wear and tear on his joints, like, and the fact that he's getting treatment like pretty much everywhere, like multiple times, like I don't think that is increasing his capacity for strength one bit. But like I said prior, man, how healthy you are is sometimes more important than how much weight you're moving.
Especially in this sport, like you were saying, right? It's health is huge.
Well, you know why that they're not becoming mainstream medicine, right? It's the same thing as a lot of things, okay? Because if they bring out stem cells, they'd researched it for years. Problem is now you're taking $1 billion industry away in surgeries and pharma and with the cortisone, all this other shit you brought up. Stem cells would be a game changer, and it would be devastating. So that's why stuff like that really works is never going to be mainstream.
Like you were talking about earlier, financials at the end of the day, right? And it's something that's just.
I don't want to get anything too political.
No worries. I just had to say it.
What I'm saying is you are spot on, and that is 100% the reason. That's it. It's money. That's all it is. It's milking insurances and things like that. Yeah. It'll eventually be covered by your insurance at a ridiculous cost.
Yeah, probably.
Well, I gotta go in 8 minutes, guys, because I have a physio appointment. But I want to ask Paul one more question. Paul, if the WAL comes back, I know there's talks and all this, but I just wanted, let's pretend that it comes back eventually. What route do you see them taking, and how do you feel it's going to affect the sport?
So the rumors that I heard was tournament format to start, and then maybe some different concepts beyond. I don't know how that'll look. But I competed under WAL, and I have really good experience. I promoted tournaments under them, the same as we're doing the East versus West qual. Was basically the same exact pattern. East versus West is doing very similar thing. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that other leagues, especially other leagues that are doing a production quality of that magnitude, could do anything but good for the sport. Like, I don't think like that competition is a bad thing. Like you look at anything out there. We love to compare, arm wrestling to MMA. So yeah, you got the UFC, you got Bellator, and then you got all the other small promotions.
PFL, one, bare knuckle.
Yeah, they're allowing you the developmental path to get you where you may want to be or not. or allow you to do it as a hobby or whatever. So any options and opportunities for people to compete really are a good thing, I think. And I think WAL brought an aspect of production quality. Certain things they did were heavily like contested by the arm wrestling community, like simple little things like having paid spectators and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I remember all of those gripes.
I still liked it though. I liked the production. It was entertaining. That's why I arm wrestle, is because of that. So, that's what got me into it.
Yep. So I think it's good for the sport, man. I think that anything out there that is allowing more arm wrestlers the opportunity to compete at a high level and maybe even get paid or have that production quality is awesome. So like all these other leagues, like they're at this juncture, we shouldn't see each other as competition at all.
Yeah.
Like it's expansion.
Yeah, it's expansion. Yeah. East versus West is so amazing. It's done so much for us. But WL, when they come back, if they come back, and the rumors and stuff, you know what? We got tomorrow's superstars just waiting in the wings, man. Like there's no, there's not like we have just these 20 contracted guys with these. I mean, there is a lot of good pullers. You don't even know their names, and they're amazing.
Well, here's the good thing about WAL too. They're a very Western focused company they're looking for English speakers, right? So the big gripe between the different leagues and opportunities that were available back then was that the WAL is not the best. Yeah. And we have guys that compete in the WAL that are proving there were guys in that league that were very much right there. Yeah. But maybe the whole playing field wasn't, and it's hard to argue that because a lot of the non-English speakers were excluded. And I think one of the coolest things the East versus West has done, it has included non-English speakers, helped them get a following, and also encouraged them to learn English. Yeah, develop a character. And in vice, like if the WAL comes back, I'm sure they're going to come back with the English-speaking focus, which is then another immense like developmental path for other guys who might not be getting that opportunity. So like if the playing field is at all watered down, there are going to be guys that have the opportunity to step up there and build a character, build a brand, and excel. And if that's where they want to be, great. But there's other options too. And I mean, it's almost like the WAL is more of the Arm Wars type format. Just what Neil's doing so much better is the backstory and character development. He's so focused on that, and I believe that's a very important thing. And WAL, I think if they come back, I think we're going to see Neil's influence and some of these other people. It's going to push them into that heavy character development, and I think you're going to get guys that do really well with it.
No, I agree. You know what? Kind of, I see too. Some guys are complaining. Even when we did the qualifier, Paul. Yeah. There was like other ones that wanted to do it and everything, and there was a bunch of drama about having tournaments too close together. Well, you know what? That's awesome though, because you know what? We complained for so many years that we didn't have these opportunities and we didn't have these tournaments. Now we're getting to the point where we can choose. Like that's awesome. Like I mean? Know. It's awesome. Yeah.
I wish everyone thought like that. But like I said, I've been in the promoting side, so Brian,
I know, I understand that side too.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's in the States, it's like you almost, if you don't pick your date about a year out, you're probably somebody's probably gonna say you're stepping on their toes, and it might be some guy from 9 hours away and 2 weeks. You can't really argue with him if he thinks it's gonna happen. You can't. It's gonna affect him. What do you just say? I'm sorry, I can't move the date. But at the end of the day, is it not a good thing?
It is. Like it is. I don't care. I put the sport before myself. That's what I'm trying to do, is build the sport. So you know what? If I got to sacrifice a few entries, oh well. Like I'm just happy guys have opportunities.
If you have that bigger picture mentality, then little things won't bother you as much. Yeah. So like I sleep well at night knowing that like I'm not like the promotion stuff. Man, I'm not gaining anything from that financially or whatever. The whole endeavor was started at the beginning because I was like a kid in the candy shop finding this arm wrestling sport, and I wanted to go tell everybody the good news and like let's make opportunities. And, when the negative stuff pops up, like in my head, I'm just like, okay, whatever. And somebody put a tournament too close to mine. All right, well, if nobody comes, that'll be okay too. Where are we going to put these qualifiers? Oh man, we're too close to this guy. Well, hey, look, at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is get people qualified so they have an opportunity. I mean, nobody's really making money off of these qualifiers, right?
And it's forcing us to put on a better event. So like if I want people to come to my event, I know there's three weekends in a row back to back. Well,
Right.
guess what? I'm going to do the best. I want them to choose my event. So if they choose my event, then obviously I did something right. You know what I mean? And if they choose theirs, well, good, because obviously they did something and there was something better for the competitors there. Like I have to look at it that way, right?
If everybody thought like that, we would have so much less problems.
Oh, I know, but you got to start somewhere with some people, right? So I'm gonna just think that way. So
Well, and like as an up and comer to the sport too, I see where you guys are coming from in that sense, because like as a competitor, it's nice to have the options. And like for me, for example, you guys know this. My dad works 2 weeks away at a time. He gets 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. It's great for him to have all these options because he's not home for half of them, and that really frustrates him. And for him to have all these tournaments all the time, he's starting to be able to make more with me, and it's just something that's nice from like a family perspective too. That is nice to see. And then on the whole WAL coming back sense as well, it's fun because it's all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm a 198er. I don't have to beat Adam Warzinski anymore to maybe be in a spotlight. I can make a good name for myself, have a good little bit of a presence, and still get a good match that's fun. And I think that's what the sport should be looking for is, you don't have to be the best in the world to still have a fun, entertaining card with a bunch of fun guys and have a good show out of it, right? Because you don't like it's fun to watch the best of the best. It's just like the UFC, like we were talking about, but it's still fun to tune into that bare knuckle fighting where you haven't seen these guys before and they have an absolute war, and you're like, okay, I'm a fan of this guy now. And then all of a sudden this guy goes on a heater and you're like, okay, well, I hope the UFC signs this guy now. Like, this is awesome. Like, they can totally do something like that, and it's super awesome.
Oh, and it bring the level up too, because now I'm not competing in 4 events a year. I can compete in 8, and now I'm that much more versed for next year. Like I learned that much more. If you're limited to what you can pull, and you know what I'm saying. It's good.
But anyways, guys, I hate cutting it short, but I do have to this one day. Paul, it was a pleasure getting to talk with you. I know I'll see you around at a tournament sometime. I'm going to be coming more to the States more and more as I get a little bit better. But I'll definitely see you around, and it was a pleasure to talk with you. And thanks for coming on to the show once again. Hey.
Yeah, just let me know when you're around, man. We'll link up, man. The pleasure's all mine.
All right, I appreciate it. Take care, guys. Hey, enjoy the rest of the podcast.
We're going to go.
Yeah, we're getting close. Yeah, you know what, Zach, you had a couple questions you wanted to ask Paul.
Yeah, I just got a couple there.
Now's a good time. Now's a good time. We can get them.
Yeah, we talked a lot about training, Paul. I just wanted to know what's your main focus when it comes to recovery before like a super match?
Like before, like the 2 weeks leading?
Yeah.
Well, so the biggest thing that I learned, again, getting out of that meathead mode, that like like I was doing too much when I first got, and I was totally just total meathead mode. Like all these guys are complaining about being sore or soft. They're not injured, they're hurt, and they got to suck it up, and they got to, and I was like living that life, and training through pain and just, hitting the leave and making it work. And I learned then too, and like same thing, like because I was able to have some success early doing things the wrong way, it's kind of like that curse of like, maybe, I don't want to say not having competition, definitely had competition, but like I was able to be successful enough doing things the wrong way that it shielded me from like what I needed to be doing. And I, for years, I didn't take time off before competition, whatever it may be. I mean, I think my WAL match, I think I trained like 3 days prior, like an idiot, like, but then it took it, then the trial and error process. And now, so 2 weeks out, I start my taper, and I gradually work into it. So like it would be like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday would start, like that Monday would still be a little bit of heavy training, but less arm wrestling specific. and arm wrestling specific would shift to sheer blood flow. And the core strength stuff, Monday would be the only heavy day. Tuesday would get lighter. Rep ranges increase, intensity level decreases. And that goes until roughly, I usually do 7 days with no resistance training at all now. So basically 14 days of diminished capacity into blood flow, and then 7 days of really no resistance training other than like I will go to the gym, but like the weights that I'm moving, I might as well not be moving weights. Like, I mean, we're talking about like going to lap pool and just do like a bunch of reps with like 100 pounds, like just enough to keep range of motion, blood flow, and stop me from tightening up. So that's kind of been the approach. And I do no table time. I have my last practice at least 14 days before competition. And I have found that I believe my body responds best if I'm really trying to hit that peak by doing that.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
It's funny how people do things different, eh? Because, you know, Hutchings always talks about how he goes right up till like the Wednesday.
Yeah. He's still doing the meathead stuff. No, he's
not.
That's
he's
what
not.
To go back to John, Todd, Devin. These guys are not the norm. They're the exception to the rule.
Exactly.
He's not a normal guy. Like the conjugate method, I believe, is there's extreme value in it, and the exact way that Todd does it. I just know that there are things that Todd's body can handle that mine can't.
Yeah, me too. I found that out. I started his way, and my tendons were getting injured, not stronger. So yeah.
And I talked to the guy. He's however many years old now. I talked to him like not too long ago and lead up to the Datacon match, and he's like, I don't have no pain. Because I remember he was like, the stem cell people were there, were like offering him treatment. And he was like, I don't need it.
Why? Yeah.
Like, 100%, like, I don't even need it. I've got no injuries.
I know. It's hard to believe, eh? Jeez.
Yeah.
Is that what you mainly had? You have another one?
Yeah, just one more.
Okay.
So with your recent matches over the years, some of the great ones being against Sasho, Irakli, David, BJ Fokakis, Pavlo, Artem, Ron Bath. What do you think your hardest fight in the past recent years have been?
Like hardest, like who, the best opponent or the hardest match?
The hardest match for you.
Sasho.
Sasho.
And Sasho, because of a couple things, like that was also one of my favorite matches, but because of kind of how the thing, it was my hardest camp preparation leading to, because I stepped outside of my norm. And I started doing some, Bulgarian style training as far as the table and like static holds and different things that I did in preparation for that. Was extremely uncomfortable and taxing. And it was at an effort to develop like stamina. And I still didn't have enough stamina. But that match was interesting in that, like, kind of the way I had to try and arm wrestle around it. Like in the second round, I had a partial tear on my pec on the pin, and like that, like there is no excuse at all. Like I didn't even acknowledge it in the moment. I only knew it like after, like really knew it after the fact. Moving it bothered me a little bit, but like that to me was the toughest, because like when I felt that tweak, I'm like, okay, now I have to like I have to try and adjust or arm wrestle a little differently or whatever. So yeah, that was the toughest in the moment on the fly. Like, well, how much can I trust the structural integrity, and like that to me. And it was, again, like somebody I have the utmost respect for, like in Sasho. So definitely the toughest preparation, definitely the toughest in match, and the most grueling. So
as a fan, Paul, that was like, because I'm a fanboy too, right? So I was the most mad I've ever been though during that match, because you pinned him, and it took, and I'm gonna say it because I watched it 10 times. It took like fucking 10 seconds to call the pin. And I think that could have been the difference. Like that one pin, it was like you pinned him and pinned him and pinned him, and then finally they called him. I'm sorry. I'm not making drama. I'm not saying nothing.
I'm not a sour grapes guy.
No, I'm not sour either, but I was rooting for you so strongly, and I was freaking. I'm like, he fucking was called the pin.
I think if I would have had enough in the tank
Yeah.
I made enough of a fuss after that round that I think I would have got the pin call if I could have done it in the third round, and I just couldn't do it.
I know, but I seen it just fade. I seen you just fade at, and I was like, that was that fucking pin. And I was freaking. I was jumping around.
That was when the long term thing was that was where the zip too,
buddy.
you know. So like in my head since then, like the life lesson aspect is like when I look at my lead up to that match, too much of what I was doing in preparation was drilling and statics and ISOs at center table. My center table for that match was tremendous. I felt so structurally great in the center of the table that I wasn't going to get knocked off center. But I neglected without knowing it the actual pin line, last centimeter that you need to bury a pin. You know, and when you get down there and you get stopped, you start recruiting all kind of different muscle fibers to try and finish it. It just happened to be the pec.
Yeah, that's how I developed my finish, is because I used to get guys right at the pin pad and I couldn't finish them. And then even if I beat them, I'm done for the rest of the tournament. Like I would just start losing after that. So I ended up developing a side pressure press where I just, instead of coming up, I just slide my elbow forward and I punch them to the pad. Yeah. And I do that to save my energy because I don't have good endurance. So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That match was great though. Just let you know that's in the record books as one of the greatest matches. So
yeah, I had fun at that one. You know, it's funny, man. Sometimes your losses can
define you, and they're also can be the best ever. So
I remember my losses. I don't remember my wins. But like when you can have a loss where it's not too bad and you kind of save face a little bit, or
that match,
there are a lot of matches that I lost that I circle as they were a long-term win based off of what I learned or just proving to myself that I deserve to be there. To me, sometimes that's when you're that heavy of an underdog, which we're always going to be at some point in life. Sometimes just proving that you deserve to be there is good enough to motivate you to get there again.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, Paul, thanks a lot for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Man,
yeah. You know, we figured we try this podcast thing, you know, and it's a lot. You know what? Not even looking at who watches it. It's a lot of fun. I love talking arm wrestling, and every time we do a podcast, I just fucking love it. So thanks.
Well, shoot me the link once we're done here, and we'll go ahead and share her out. You know,
that'd be awesome. We really appreciate that.
Paul, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Hey, again, thank you so much, Brian. Also, thank you for your organization efforts.
Oh, thanks, man.
It doesn't go unnoticed. Angin's grateful. All the pullers that you're helping promote, whether it's stateside or around the world with the brand, greatly appreciated.
Well, we're open to all North America. We're open to the world. So, anybody wants to come to we get it to do it again, then it'll be open to anybody that wants to come. So,
well, we're doing it. We're going to do another round, and of course, you'll be able to do it again.
It'd be awesome. My pleasure. And thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, man.
Hey, listen, let me close this podcast out for you guys. Thanks. If you have not done so yet, please like and subscribe and share to someone else who also loves arm wrestling as much as we do. And make sure that you tune in for future episodes.
Oh, thanks, brother. Bam. Awesome.